close are we to the edge of the economy literally falling off the cliff? Today we're going to talk about what big banks are doing, what the Fed just stated out loud, which shouldn't make you think, oh gosh, where are we at? Now, this is not the fault of this new administration. This is the fault of years and years and years of a terrible, terrible way of looking at debt and a terrible way of actually running our government. Most businesses would have already filed for bankruptcy. Well, as even Doge says, we are so close to bankruptcy, you can see it. Now, let's discuss also that it's not just people buying gold. It's, again, countries buying gold. It's nations buying gold. It's big banks and big players buying gold. Not because they think it's just a great investment, but they know it's a hedge against the dangers that everybody's seeing. Literally, we've kicked the can down the road, and I think we're fixing to kick it off the cliff. Bitcoin crashed. The dollar's dipping because of Zelensky's situation yesterday and not signing the agreement with the whole crazy outburst that he did in the White House yesterday. A lot is going on, but it all pertains to the fact that the economy, even though we want it to do better, even though we have a great leader who is trying to make good policy, Doge is doing better. We're actually at a better situation than we were just in January when it comes to our money. But is it too little too late? Let's dive into all these stories and a few more, and let's talk about your money. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Thank you so very much for being here today. Remember, this is your last day. We always give you the first day of the next month to get into the giveaway. We're actually doing a giveaway on this channel, the Max Life and Life with Colby Mac. All three channels. Make sure you are subscribed and you comment and you give us a thumbs up on those three channels. We do a random drawing every month. And we have something awesome we're giving away. We're giving away a big survival pack, hundreds of dollars worth of goods. Do not miss out on this opportunity. It's a great kit to have in your car, in your home, and you're entered for free. All it takes is you subscribing, commenting below, and you'll be entered into the giveaway. Now let's talk about the stories of the day, because this is what really matters. Because even with me and Misty, we look at everything in a way that, you know, we're smart with money. We don't spend a lot of money, and the money that we do spend, we have already allocated for spending in budget. So we are very, very conscientious of that. But even us, people like us who are, you know, not in piles of debt, it still gives us a little franticness when we hear about all these stories, because remember, our economy is ran on debt. There was a good comment yesterday made with Elon Musk with Joe Rogan. He said, just imagine if you could always write checks knowing you didn't have the money, but that it never bounced. Just think if you had a credit card that never had a max limit and you never were responsible for paying it back. Well, that's what our country has done for so long. We've put ourselves in very bad spots because we chose to do just those two things. Elon said that it's like writing a check and then literally knowing it's going to clear no matter what. Never actually reconciling your bank, never actually seeing what you spent the money on. Just, it's like you lose a little change in your couch, and that little change is $20 to $30 billion. He said that's how frivolous we've been. He said this is probably the biggest scam of the century, is that we thought for some reason that our government was better with money. And he said more and more we're realizing how bad they were with money. And I think now we're seeing the ramifications of that. Now, we have Trump, who had a great report. It says American savings rate, and this is talking about not just Americans in general, but also America, savings rate has soared for the first official signs that the Doge success is emerging. The firings and all that. You're starting to really get the ramifications of that. But what did I say the other day? Even though we're getting those savings, even though it looks better, the dollar did actually pull ahead and start doing well before the meeting yesterday. So there was some encouragement there. But as most billionaires and most banks say, we're not to a point where we can be grateful of it because we are so far in a hole. You know, I think of it this way. I have a piece of equipment and I dig this big old trench, and I could dig pool-sized trench or a lake-sized trench. And yes, I could get rid of the equipment and take a shovel and start throwing it back in there. Well, I'm technically filling up the hole, but I'm nowhere near going to fill it up by just taking a piece of equipment and getting rid of it and then starting using a shovel. It's kind of like the ocean. Old cliche here. We can grab buckets of water out of the ocean, and yes, we're throwing it out. It's not going back in the ocean. But are you making a dent in the fact of the water going down? Or taking enough out to make a difference? Well, that's kind of where we're at. Doge came out yesterday and said, even though we're cutting tremendously, the amount of cut that we have to have is literally $2 trillion just to balance the budget. We have to cut $2 trillion just to balance the budget. The Atlanta Fed model suddenly signals U.S. recession as stagnation takes hold. Now, I told you this other day, it's almost like you're trying to catch a ball that is falling really quick off a building. Because what we've done is, the reason our GDP and the reason that our government and our economy looked so strong for so long is because the waste and fraud of the money that we were spending. So it was like a double-edged sword or a two-headed snake. And on the one hand, you want to quit spending money. But on the other hand, if you quit spending money, you're going to fall into a massive recession. Well, then you have to have a balancing act of, let's catch the ball off the 50-story building. I don't know if we could catch it though, because ultimately we've got to catch it and stop it from hitting the ground. And as we catch it, we're going to catch it midair because we need to jump back up to that level again. So what I'm saying is this: we've got to make sure that we're building our economy up enough as we're cutting the spending that we've had for so long. So it's a balancing act that I don't know if we're actually there yet, because again, our Congress is still spending money like crazy. So Atlanta Fed said the models all show that the U.S. recession is here. Before we go any further, a word from today's sponsor. Have you ever Googled yourself and literally your family members and information of yours came up? The question always comes to mind is, how much of my public information is actually on the World Wide Web, on the internet, where people could just access it? Not only that, think about all the spam calls you get, all the spam emails you get. I get several a day and have to block and block and block. That's where my friends at Aura, the sponsor of today's video, can help. Aura will help remove your personal information from data brokers and people searching sites to sell your information from and to identity thieves and scammers and more. Aura monitors your personal data, including your social security number, your house number, your phone number. And not only do they check it and monitor it, they will alert you if all of a sudden they find that your information has been compromised. Also, Aura VPN. VPN protects you on the internet, and this was with military-grade protection when it comes to Aura's VPN. It blocks all scam and phishing sites from getting your information in your accounts. What about an antivirus? What about a password manager? 24/7 US-based support. I get all this in one app called Aura. I do not want to leave myself vulnerable. We talk about it all the time. We live in a digitized world. The last thing I want to do is protect my home and not protect myself online. Check out aura.com/themax today. You will not be sorry that you did. My information is mine. My social is my social. My address is mine. The last thing I want is someone else to have it. You can go to my link below, aura.com/themax, and get 2 weeks free. That will be enough for you to see how Aura is an asset to you, because you're going to realize how much you're exposed online. Stop leaving yourself vulnerable. Check out Aura today. Link is in the description. Thank you so much, Aura, for sponsoring today's video. JP Morgan said, we can't stop what is actually happening because we've put ourselves in a very precarious situation. And now the speculations and the problems across the world is not helping. What I believe they're saying here is not that Trump is doing something bad. What they're saying is, because of the volatility, market doesn't like volatility. And because we're in this catch-22 where we're not spending and we're trying to build up new economy and development, such as the tariffs and making sure that we're building up funding, the volatility happens, and that's where the market hates. Now, typically, you would think that your crypto market would go up. But because of all the crypto scams and cons that's happened, including meme coins by presidents, by Argentina, and all these rug pulls, people are actually getting very wary of just losing money in a casino-style money currency, which is called crypto. It says Bitcoin's crash continues. It's down 25%. Think about that now. 25%. Now, that is after a big $2 billion purchase from Michael Saylor. Now, people like Michael Saylor are telling you, please buy Bitcoin, buy the dip, buy the dip. What they're saying is, please buy it because we will go belly up if you don't, because we've all invested in it. Again, I think people are starting to wake up to realize that's not real money. And I know Trump has embraced this, and I love David Sachs. I actually really like David Sachs, the crypto czar for the White House. But let's just be honest. It's not real money. And so I think people are starting to realize that. So where do people end up going? Well, there's a new report. Even the New York Times came out. A liberal-leaning global push propaganda news source is saying that you need to buy gold. A recent piece from the New York Times encouraged readers to buy gold, noting that it is record-breaking even since 2020. This article from New York Times too goes on and says, yes, we're buying gold. Yes, you should buy gold. Yes, it's going up in value. And they do bring up one point, and again, not that I agree with the New York Times, but it says the money printing really hadn't stopped. The fact that we still got the spigots on, we just turned the pressure down a little bit. We've got to cut the pressure off. We've got to cut the spending off. Well, now you have judges and Democrats and different bureaucrats that are literally trying to sue the administration to keep the spigots on. So again, it's a fighting battle to see, okay, can we, again, cut enough spending to then build up the economy enough to catch the ball halfway through off the 50-story building to make sure that our economy doesn't fall into a complete and utter crash. It says the S&P futures did rebound a little bit Thursday and Friday. However, we have wiped out all 2025 gains. Morgan Stanley warns selling panic triggers the first $40 billion in CTA liquidations. Again, we talked about Warren Buffett pulling a lot of his money out of the bank. Did you notice that JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon sold a lot of his shares as well of JP Morgan? Now, they say, well, that's part of his retirement buyout. We've planned it so and so. But again, if the stock is doing well, the bank is doing well, and he's going into retirement or whatever, why would you think he's already probably close to a billionaire, if not ultra mega millionaire. Why would he need to do that? Do you get what I'm saying? Really, our market is held up by just a few companies that are thriving across the world. If some of those companies start falling, that brink of collapse is now going off the hill, and we are now crashing tremendously. I want you to listen to this, and this is what was said yesterday by Doge and by Elon. He said, a lot of times these judges and these bureaucracies and these Democrats are pushing for more funding. He said, even rhinos. He said, the government-funded NGOs are a way to do things that typically are illegal. And he said, what they do is the government can't do it, so what they do is somehow make it legal to then push to these nonprofits, and those nonprofits actually do a lot of the scams and a lot of the things that the government could not do. They're utilized in a way that is a true scam. So again, we have Doge working to try to fix our budget in America, trying to cut $2 trillion, not even got really to $100 billion yet. At the same time, your bureaucracy is spending $300 to $400 billion off this last spending bill, and now they're pushing against basically shutting down a lot of parts of Doge because they want the frivolous spending to keep on going. Do you see the problem that we're in? I mean, it's honestly like we have put ourselves in a toilet bowl and we're flushing and flushing, and we keep hoping not to go down, but ultimately we're going to go down the drain because we can't keep doing this balancing act. We have to realize that if we're going to cut, we have to put ourselves probably in a voluntary recession and start absolutely cutting the budget to fit the income that we have. See, isn't it simple? Think about it in this term. It's kindergarten, elementary level stuff. America makes, let's just say America makes $5 trillion, which is somewhere around there, 4.5 to 5 trillion, 5.5. So let's just say $5 trillion. If we're spending $7 trillion, that doesn't mean that we can keep on doing that because we're going in debt, i.e. the monster debt that we have. So two things have got to happen. Either you find ways to make money, which is, of course, overtaxing your people, or taking money from someone else across the world, which causes problems with war, or you just cut your budget. Think about it. How easy would it be just to say, okay, we make $5 trillion, so that means we make plenty of money, the biggest economy in the world by leaps and bounds. Why don't we just cut the budget to $5 trillion? Well, see, here that's the problem. Nobody wants to cut their budget because that's who's feeding them. There's a report, and this is just a very small, minuscule report. I want you to listen to this, and this is just one small little instance. This was from Wall Street Apes. He said, this is not what government was supposed to be when it meant to help people. Now listen to this. This lady that they're interviewing is 30 years old now. 30 years old. She has 4 kids, not married. She has been on welfare for 12 years. The interviewer asked her and said, do you live with a government assistant housing too? And she said, yes, since I was 18. So let me explain this to you in one person. Now there's hundreds of millions that's needing government assistance. There's hundreds of millions of things that we're funding. But this one instance, She has not worked a day in her life over 18. She's had children, so that means she is getting SNAP EBT cards along with free insurance for her kids for health. Look, I want their kids healthy. I'm not saying that. Listen, though. She lives in government assistance housing, Section 8 housing, and then she also does not have a job now because she says she can't. But her kids go to school for free in public education, and she's getting free food, free stay, and now she's wanting to make sure her funding is not cut. That is the people that are voting for the Democrats or these bureaucrats to stay in power. Now, her little portion won't fix the budget, but 1 million of her portions would probably help the budget. Also, the fact that 1 million of those people that are living off the government, if they keep getting fed the fact that they can keep on having all this free money and not having to do anything for it, then they're going to keep electing the people that's giving them the money. Well, the people that's giving them the money is the bureaucracy that wants to keep power because their little peony money they're getting a month, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, which is a lot to us, but to that congressman, it's not that big of a deal because he's getting millions in the kickbacks from actually funding her problem. Do you see how that works? Now, we see her problem, and now she's complaining that her funding is getting cut off and she can't take care of her kids. Now, that looks like she can't take care of her kids. That's actually false. She can take care of her kids. She could do like me. I work 2 jobs along with raising our family, and I have 6 children. I get no government assistance. Now, is that kudos to me? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this. They can give a sob story because she's not working and she wants the government to keep on fulfilling her needs. The bureaucracy, the elected officials want to keep doing it because they're getting kickbacks. So therefore, the problem is not with that person. It's because she's been taught that she can rob the system because the bureaucracy has told her she can rob the system. And she's lived in that for, did you hear it, the last 12 years. Imagine it went back even further than that when it comes to her parents. Now, the problem is this. If we build a society that thinks they always are entitled to money, then how are we ever going to solve it when they have to actually go through tough times? Right now, we need to go through tough times, voluntarily put ourselves in that recession, so therefore we don't fall off the cliff into a depression. Prime example yesterday. Zelensky walks into the White House, and he literally says to the president, I'm not sorry for what I've done. Basically, I'll sign this deal, but really we're not looking for peace. We're looking for aggressiveness. We want our land back. Basically, he spat in the face of the American people because he wasn't thankful for the $200 to $300 billion he's already taken. He was crossing his arms and was very disrespectful to the leadership of America, no matter what side of the aisle they're on. I mean, it's to a point where that's what entitlements do. When we don't earn our money, and we don't fight for our money, then it's just given to us, then we are not appreciative of it. Let's go back to the Senate Congress. They get so much money handed to them. They're not appreciative of it. They just want more. That more that they want ends up being more funding that they have to have that undermines what Doge and Trump is doing. That all is why we could see a market crash within days. I don't like it. I hate it. But to be honest with you, if it was me, my personal opinion, I'd keep cutting like they're doing. I'd cut even more. I would reform even more. But here's what I would do too. I'd shut the government down. I'd be talking to the leadership of Congress. And because they have another continuing resolution coming up, because we have to keep kicking the can down the road and printing more money. Cut the spigot off. Deal with the problem voluntarily than if you just let it fall off the cliff. People do not have any money. They're using debt. Walmart even warned of that. Target even warned of that. People are defaulting on their credit cards and their automotive bills more than ever. People can't afford to have a house bought because of the interest and inflation. People can't even rent anymore because the rent has went up 20 or 30%. Now let's not talk about groceries, how they've went up. Now this is not the fault of this administration. Remember, we're a huge government. This is the fault of the last 30 or 40 or 50 years, and we're just now filling it. But I actually don't even blame Biden as much as I blame our Congress. Now I know that's a bold statement. Biden spent a lot of money and wasted a lot of money and kept printing money. But he was just doing what everybody's done for the last 50 years, since really the 70s. or really 60s with social programs. But what the problem is, we have a government that has gotten too big, and they want to keep on staying that big and keep on draining the money out of the system for their own selfish desires, not to actually help America. I laugh because Lindsey Graham came out and speaking against Zelensky yesterday. Last week he voted $47 billion to Ukraine. Don't let them lie to you. Don't let them lie to you. So when J.P. Morgan Chase, when Morgan Stanley, when people like the big banks and the big billionaires start pulling their money out of the stock market, when they're telling you that they're buying gold because they're hedging against a falling market, when you see the dollar struggling, when you see Bitcoin crashing, all that's telling you telltale signs that our market and that our money and our economy is on the brink of collapse. And how we solve it? We voluntarily put ourselves in a recession. We voluntarily put ourselves in hard times. Doesn't make it easy, but when we put ourselves in the valley, it makes the mountain look even better. And I promise you, if we would just do that, if we would voluntarily start cutting our budget and start finding money through negotiations, through leverage, through other means such as tariffs, then we will build it back, and we'll build it back right. You know, you hear people say, well, Trump's a threat to democracy. No, he is not. Listen, let's change the word around a little bit. He's a threat to the bureaucracy. And the threat to bureaucracy is what's causing the problem, not the democracy. The threat to bureaucracy. And that's why you see the pushback. You're starting to take away their hands that feed them. And that is why, if we don't start cutting, we will be on the edge, in the brink of a collapse. Guys, let me know your thoughts on this video. Again, it's not to scare you, it's to make you say, this is where we're at. And until we start getting on sound budgeting, sound money again, we will falter. And we better hope that we voluntarily put ourselves in the recession and voluntarily fix it, kind of like really what Reagan and Volcker did right after Carter. If you don't put yourself in a harder time, it's going to put you there, and it's going to be even worse than you can imagine. Guys, let me know your thoughts. God bless.